I'm Philippa Simpson. I'm Director for Buildings and Renewal at the Barbican Centre. So my role really oversees the estate of the centre, all the buildings, make sure they're cared for, they're restored where they need to be, and that they're operating efficiently. And we're about to launch on a major capital project across the next 4 to 5 years, so spending £250 million on restoring this brutalist icon and making sure it's fit for future generations. So making sure it's more inclusive, more sustainable, and it's really serving the purpose that it was founded to serve. I chose to study history of art, I think, because I had a more broad interest in the creative and cultural sector, and for me it felt like a way in, and as somebody who's not a practitioner themselves, but somebody with a deep interest in politics and in history, it seemed like this sort of perfect combination. I'd actually come out of school and taken a couple of years off to work out what it was that I wanted to do. Knew I wanted to be in the capital, if I'm honest, as well. Wanted to be somewhere where it felt like a lot was going on, and so for me it seemed like the perfect subject. But if I'm being entirely honest, probably with limited understanding of what it would actually be, because I'd not studied it before, I hadn't taken it for A-level, so it was really a new field for me. Well, I targeted the Courtaulds in my applications. I'm going to tell you the truthful story, largely based on the advice of a teacher at my school. I hadn't, as I said, studied the subject, and so when it came to applying for it, I wasn't really sure of where it would be best. And I went back, and it was a relatively new subject there. I went to a state school in Norwich, and they said that it was unlikely I'd ever get in, but that I should put it down because it would show the other organisations that I knew what I was doing and that I was taking it seriously. So it's almost like it was a sort of, it was like a benchmark place. It set a bar. And so that was sort of my introduction to the place. And then the more I researched it and the more I realised, actually, this is a place which, has this incredible mix of history and a sort of deep scholarly foundations, but also sort of progressive thinking, and had a real mix of different tutors and also different subjects. So that's sort of where it started for me. So it was intense, but it was also kind of just completely door opening. So I think this opportunity to kind of have access to different spaces around London, and to be introduced actually to stuff that I would never have thought or chosen to have looked at before was kind of life-changing, actually. And to be among people who really did want to kind of have the dialogue and really sort of challenge you, and also this way of sort of, I suppose, creating a forum for debate, which it has there, which is great, and being part of really quite a small community that then actually kind of networks out into lots and lots of different areas, was brilliant. So for me it felt just entirely exploratory. I suppose that's what I would say. It felt really, wasn't just linear, it wasn't just get through, but it was sort of, you could range around and find your way, and that was great, actually. Yeah. What surprised me about studying at the Courtauld was that it unlocked a way of thinking, I suppose, that I wasn't expecting. I kind of expect, as many people do, I think, when they kind of get spat out of the other side of, sixth form, is you expect to go to university and it's all about knowledge acquisition. And it just wasn't at all. It was like you do that on your own time. Like, you go and find out the stuff. This is all about debate and discourse and critical thinking, and which shouldn't have been a surprise, of course, because we know that's what it's about. But actually, if you've not encountered that in your education to that point, it's kind of brilliant. And then I think also this, that you were really expected to perform almost professionally from the start. You're brought into the kind of world of it. There's not that kind of barrier between, or certainly in my experience, there wasn't that barrier necessarily between kind of tutor and student. It was very much about, you're now part of the whole of that world, and that was great and unexpected. And to be treated as an adult, was great and good for me, because, as I say, I came after a couple of years off, and a few of us did in that year, actually. So it was a different environment, a totally different environment. A couple of moments that I remember in particular, going to the Princeton Drawings Room at the British Museum, or going into the V&A, actually, where I then ended up working years and years later, to see the Devonshire hunting tapestries, and turning on the light and seeing them revealed just kind of in front of you. And the idea of the privilege of that, but also, that in the nicest possible way, it sort of almost didn't matter what you were looking at, but it was this idea that you had direct encounter and real direct access. We're so fortunate, in the capital, and having these free amenities, really. So that was just exceptional from somebody like, We've got one museum in Norwich that was really kind of worth seeing, and it's a really small collection into this. It was like this wonderland almost, so it was just brilliant. Studying history of art in and of itself, it's not the history of art, it's not my knowledge of history of art that shapes anything to do with my career or how I live now, but what it has done is given me a sort of critical faculty, I suppose. So it's about critical thought and dialogue and debate, and reaching into history and politics and understanding systems of power and commerce and exchange, and understanding actually how creative production and exchange has shaped the world and how it continues to shape the world. I work now for an organisation that actually kind of doesn't exist. It's a department of a local authority, which is the City of London Corporation. So my job is so steeped actually in history and in heritage, but also in politics, but also in progressive financial thinking and commercial trading and, commercial thought, as well as creative and cultural endeavour and skills and talent development, and running an organisation that touches on every single different art form. So the breadth of that is extraordinary, and yet almost every day I think something comes into play from what I learned at the Courtauld, because how to hold an argument, and how to assimilate information and how to assess it and be critical, and also how to look at things from different perspectives. And so it's really about that process of thought as much as the subject itself. I think that's what's come out of it for me. I mean, as a subject, history of art is always going to be relevant. I mean, it just is. And I think, whether we engage consciously or unconsciously, creativity and culture shape everything about how we understand our position in the world. So, the kind of politics of what kind of culture you engage with and what that says about you. And also, even contemporary debates around wellness and access to creativity and engagement with creativity, and understanding how that's developed over the decades and the centuries is so critical to being able to make change, actually, and actually use it in the most powerful way. And so almost like whichever walk of life you go into, it's going to be important. And actually, something which I'm always trying to kind of inculcate in everybody is that these aren't all separate worlds. That actually, the politics and the commerce of place that I work, and the creativity and culture here, they're not separate pockets. They're all enabling each other and supporting each other and talking to each other. And the more people with an understanding of art and of culture that go into these different functions and work in these different spheres, very genuinely, I think the better we will be as a society, because they will bring to it an empathy and an understanding and a deep criticality of thought that can only inform things for the positive, really. So I suppose that's why I think those sorts of subjects that may appear abstract but actually have this incredible impact in how the world is shaped are still deeply, deeply significant, and probably even more so today than ever. I suppose I wish someone had done what you're doing now when I had been at the Courtauld however many years ago that was, because I don't think I had a clear sense then of the potential of what you could do actually with what you get from there. And I think just understanding the opportunities that it presents, making the very most of it, and like networking like crazy, obviously, but also thinking really laterally about how transferable those skills are and what they unlock, and how important it really is actually to take those into different areas in life. So I suppose that's kind of what I would add, and encourage people to kind of think about that as they go through their studies and their academic career, because and sort of vice versa, like bringing your own sort of lived experience into how you think about the subject, so that it can really sort of be properly embedded. It feels really significant.